Now, welcome back to another episode of Simon Says, and today we have two very special guests, Joanne Yee.
Hello.
And David K.
Hi, everyone.
Now, both of you have been to this show before, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Yeah. But today we really want to talk about Undi18 and first-time voting, because I think it is right that both of you voted the first time.
Yes.
In general elections 15.
Yep.
First time in federal or first time for any type of Malaysian election?
I think for me, it's the first time for any election.
Same for me.
Same for you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, it's very interesting. We just want to remind all the viewers, we've been talking about 6.8 million. They just kind of put together Undi18. But in reality, it's about 2 million those who pass the threshold of 18 years old. And the other 4 million, just basically, they were not registered, they didn't vote. So I think, Joanne, you are in that category where you pass the 18 years old threshold between the two GE.
Yep.
And David, you are more in the 4 million category,
That's right.
For whatever reasons, register or didn't vote or not register. But here you are, GE 15. Now, we want to talk about your adventure, your journey, but ultimately what you feel about the whole process, because Undi18 really was the topic that kickstarted this whole podcast 2 years plus ago. And Joanne, I start with you because you were here with us November 2020.
Yep.
And I think you started law school and now you are finishing.
Yeah, I'm in my final year.
Final year,
Yeah.
okay. So time flies. But one of the things I really want to ask you before we get into the detail is, remember we talked about Undi18, and I remember for me, I felt like maybe it is in the pipeline that it won't happen so quickly.
Yeah.
So were you surprised that the law passed and that you actually was able to vote not too long ago?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at first when the Undi18 movement just started, I was like, oh, it's another movement and it may not come soon, it may not happen soon. But then like 2019, I think the Undi18 bill was passed and became official law.
Unanimous voting, if you remember. Every
Yep.
single member of parliament who attended vote for that.
Correct.
So it is very interesting because, when we think about it retrospectively, we are saying that, look, this might be more appealing to the urban type of politicians. But maybe we can start with this question, because while the data of all the voters are still coming in, there's no official tally yet, because I think because of the by-elections. So SPI is saying that wait and we can buy the data. But do you remember maybe a week ago, the initial reactions after the result came in, and they were saying that, look, Undi18 allowed Perikatan Nasional to gain power in the northern area, in the eastern area. Did you read about that in the newspaper?
Yeah, someone that came across.
Yeah. So what's your reaction to that? Because now I know it's very unfair to kind of just do a very general statement, but there seems to be some in the media kind of say, hey, Undi18, voted for one party or the other. And I think 1 or 2 episodes ago, me and Lyra, we sort of say we disagree with that. But what's your take? Maybe we start with you, David.
I think Undi18, is a special group of youth that has given the right to vote at this time. And I believe it depends on the geographical location as well, where you come from, rural, urban, whether you're low class, middle class, B40, M40, and T20, and whether you're East Malaysia, West Malaysia. So I believe it's the environment, the people that they are surrounded with, that kind of just influence the teens, the youth at wherever they are, and the education as well. Who are they? Who did it actually look up to? So I think that plays a crucial impact for who to vote for, whether PN, BN, PH, and etc. Yeah.
Now, Joanne, we talk about how unanimous voting in parliament, which is very rare for any kind of law. Do you think that means that all the parties, they feel like they have a chance to attract the next generation voters?
I think if not why would they why would they agree to have Undi18? So I believe
So they all feel confident.
I think so, yeah.
So would it be fair to say, look, because Undi18 and people idea and believe and support change, just because you voted one side this time, there's no guarantee you'll vote the same the next time. Is it fair for both of you that you may change your vote?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's really, I find that more prevalent with the younger generations. And so we always say, look, it's up to the political parties, it's up to the leaders of these nations to persuade people. And it's like, you should vote for me. And all of a sudden now we have Barisan National working with Pakatan Harapan, and we just say last episode, some minds have exploded. But this is the new reality. It's very different from 2018. Everyone was like, welcome to New Malaysia, welcome to Malaysia Baru. But this is really a Malaysia Baru, but not the way we anticipated.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, let's talk about your personal, because of course you found out that all of a sudden you can vote. And so what's the time frame like, between knowing you can vote and, because the election was announced and I think within 6-7 weeks it was polling date, right? So did you all have much time to process the fact that you are going to vote for the first time already? Or was that something like quite kind of unique, or it's just another part of the process of life?
I think for me, right, I only started to think about it. I only started to feel like, oh, this is really happening, like 1 week before GE15, because like it feels so unreal. And like, to be honest, at first I didn't really intend to like fly back because of the air tickets.
Yeah, the cost, everything.
Yeah.
So once you decided to go there, then of course you start to look at the candidate. You start to look at, I mean, because are you 212 Cebu or you are Lanang? Lanang. Okay, so you are my neighbor, and we know in our area, there's the discussion about GPS, whether you want Pakatan, and there's a pro-independence. Basically there are 3 camps there. Which now, how do you? I want to hear just a bit about your experience. How do you kind of find out information, or we're not going to ask you who you vote, but how you kind of, the whole process, I guess, because today is really all about Undi18 and first time voter. What's the process that you took, or is a very intuitive kind of thing, you just feel like I'm going this way, or is there discussion with family, friends?
To be honest, at first I was like really sure like whom I'm going to vote for. But then after that, like after I talked with my parents, and then after like scrolling through like social media, I kind of like changed my mind. And then it was like a step where like I was thinking, oh, like whom should I vote? Like whether I will vote for the right party. So like after that, I think like my final decision was kind of affected by my family members.
Okay. So your family, are they generally political, or?
No, I mean like they are not really, but I mean like I kind of know like whom they are going to vote for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's at least family discussions. Now it's interesting. What about David? Is there what's the dynamic in terms of the process? I guess we're interested in the process.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, since as a first time voter, I think the interest started from me back in 2020. I think it's definitely Sheraton move has been that impact that really kind of caused that stirring, that burning in my heart to really like have to go do something about it. I need to make a difference. Although previously I thought, okay, everything just I don't have to do anything. Okay, my vote doesn't make a difference. But I realized that despite people claiming that what you said, Malaysia Baru, but things can just turn around in 22 months.
Yep.
So I felt that, yes, I think this is my time to really rise up, to contribute, to do something, to take that responsibility, the duty, the right as a citizen, to voice out my opinion, in regards to election. And that's why hence I started to register myself. And yes, and ever since then I was just looking forward to the next election to really just vote.
Yeah, you mentioned that you sort of register after the last GE, before the current GE was announced, but of course somehow in between Undi18
Correct.
happens and you kind of like grew into that.
That's right.
But I mean, without Undi18, you would have been a qualified
Yes.
voter this time round.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And so Sheraton kind of caused you to be motivated to. I mean, one of the things, of course, people always say, and even I think I can't remember episode 1. I think episode 1 of this video series. Remember some of the voters that we were showing in the interview. They say doesn't make a difference, one vote, that kind of thing.
Correct.
But obviously for you, you feel like
Yes.
your vote counts.
Yep.
How about Joanne? Do you feel like every vote counts?
To be honest, at first I didn't really think like, oh, my vote will count, because like initially I didn't plan to fly back, but then after that I just feel like I need to go back because like every vote actually counts.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I mean like it was funny because like, I heard people say like telling me like, oh, it's okay, you will vote and then you will get another 5 years that you have the right to complain about the government in another 5 years. I was like, why must it be like negative? And that is when I really think that, oh, I need to vote for the right party because every vote actually counts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people need to understand is, look, it's okay to have different opinion. It's okay to have different aspiration. And even, you know, of course, now you have a new government with Anwar Ibrahim as Prime Minister, but Perikatan Nasional still receives 70 plus seats. So it's not insignificant. So there are different aspirations that is happening right now. And really, I think our nation is going through this discussion. Where do we want to go? Because the reality is we have the voters who did not give a very clear indication. Now, of course, Pakatan Harapan would say we get the most popular votes. But, you know, I mean, you're a law student, and David, you're involved with legal, political research also. You know, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's like you want to be in a race, have to follow the rules, right?
Yep.
Now, I want to go into the next thing, which again is kind of personal, would be now throughout the G15 campaign. Now David, you already mentioned Sheraton because some people are they felt very strongly about Sheraton, and some people not really. I think Lara and myself we're a bit ambivalent about that in the previous episode. But we want to ask you, you know, what are the issues that you feel are important in terms of issues being raised by the politicians, by the parties, or even just the issues that you are seeing? You know, is it bread and butter issue? Is it law reform issue? Is it good governance issue? So maybe we start with you, Joanne.
I think for me, right, personally, because like I'm quite new in this area, so it is not really about the issues, but it is like how the politicians, how every political parties, they convey their messages to the rakyat.
Yep.
And I think like one of the points that really hit me, that really like caused me to decide like, oh, I'm going to vote for them, is like they're like saying that, oh, only Malaysians will be able to change Malaysia, and then like they're like encouraging all Malaysians to like vote. They are not asking people to vote for them, but then they're asking like, we need to exercise our right to vote. And that is the point that really like encouraged me to like, oh, I'm going to vote this time. Yeah.
Did you? I mean, you mentioned about social media.
Yeah.
What about did you go and watch ceramah, for example?
I didn't get a chance to go and like listen to any ceramah. So I mean, like from that, like from GE15, I learned that I will really like for the next GE, I think like I will really need to like listen to like more than one ceramah so that I can build and form my own view, so that I can like I will be well informed, so that I will make the right decision. Yeah.
Now this time, based on a survey but you know, Malaysian data survey, we are not as sophisticated as some jurisdiction, but the broad survey indicated more than 40% of likely voters were undecided. Up to, okay, maybe I should say up to 40%. So in any system, that is huge, very huge. Now, before we ask David about what are the issues that you have passion, do you feel like both of you are in this category that every time you will decide afresh based on person, party, and issues?
Yeah, I think definitely issue will be on top of the chart. If definitely the person is also important. If the track record is very bad, then definitely something that we will need to consider whether should we switch to a next political candidate, but not so much of party for me at this point.
So that means you are still looking at the person first.
Yes, I think first and foremost, I do look at the person.
That's very interesting because that's I would say it's not conventional, and so it's interesting. What about you, Joanne?
I will look at the party.
You look at party first, okay, yeah.
And only then I will zoom in to look at the candidate. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that, look, if you are convinced about a party, you're more likely than not to give the vote to the party, even though it's a person that you may not know well?
Yeah, for me, that's the way.
It reminds me of a story, okay? One of our friends, and I'm not going to mention the locality, but we're just saying, are you going to vote? Because he has a tendency to sometimes not vote. So he said, oh, yeah. He said, look at the candidate, and he said, I don't know a single one of them. Should I vote? And so we're trying to convince him that, look, because there are so many new candidates, and sometimes really very difficult to make a decision. But David, I agree. I totally respect your view, because that's a very that's, I would say that's a more mature and advanced view. But it takes much more effort to do it, and I know there are people like that. But for most people, it is the logo, and that's why DAP decided to use Rocket in Sarawak. And so the other day, so Hannah Yo, of course, she was visiting, and she said, I have not seen Rocket for so long. Because the Pakatan here, the Rocket DAP don't use Rocket symbol here. So that's interesting. Okay. So what about you, David? What are now you mentioned Sheraton already, but what are the issue that you are looking for in terms of this GE? What issues kind of grab your attention, I guess?
I think definitely stability first and foremost, and then I think the second one is definitely bread and butter. I think that's what most citizens are looking up to the leaders right now who's going to take the first step to resolve the bread and butter issue? Like no eggs that around. There's no eggs already. People are just complaining. Where are the eggs? So it's like simple things like that. If the government or the leader cannot resolve it, who's going to look up to them, and where they can get help from? So I think that's something that personally I think I will definitely look for is political stability. And the next one is bread and butter.
Now, David, I want to just probe a little bit, because I know you are in trading, you are a bit into economic stuff. And so what do you think of we have Pakatan Harapan for 22 months, then we have Muhyiddin, Perikatan, then we have Perikatan 1.5 under Sabri. How would you rate the economic performance?
Well, it's like negative, like infinity, I would say.
Why? Because you're in this, you're in data business. So give us 1 or 2 points why it is a negative.
I think
because why I ask is because you mentioned stability, and that was Perikatan's message. Vote for us, and have stability. But I know you go trending in another direction. So I'd like to hear your processing the whole this.
Okay, in terms of economic stability, I think economic wise that I think some of the leaders, personally I feel that the leaders are just profiting for their own self.
Okay.
And they are not like on one hand they say that I care for the people, but on the other hand, they're just spending lavishly on different cars, new bigger cars, and all that. So I think on the economic side, I think I don't see them fit in taking us out. During the COVID period as well. We have gone through like ups and downs, lockdowns, and people are just suffering, and all kinds of cash given out and all that stuff, and people are still the result is still the same. I still feel to today, and people are just like going into that same cycle and complaining and complaining. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of forgotten that Muhyiddin actually brought us into emergency.
Yes.
And I know as a legal person, that's really very, very bad, because you shouldn't go into emergency without justification. And I think he just want to avoid parliament meeting. That's the perception people get. Now, Joanne, I know you are a law student finishing, but do you all talk much about emergency like that time, among your peers?
To be honest, right, that time we didn't really talk about it. We were just like knowing, like emergency was just declared, and then like just something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I understand where you're coming from, because when I was a law student, these are really a more niche kind of thing. Constitution. I mean, you have one subject, constitution law, but of course, then you, and they don't tell you all the breaches and all the messes that we can just name him, Mahathir created all the mess. And so they just kind of sugarcoat the whole history and tell you, our constitution is still great. They never mention it has been amended more than 1,000 times, for example. So, but it's good. I mean, I feel like more and more people are getting the awareness, because I did remember from the 2 years ago, the episode, you did say one of the reasons you did law is because you are interested in social justice. You are interested in just the dispensation of justice. And I really feel like to have this kind of generation is so crucial in our country, because then you want proper law and order and things like that. Now, let's talk about law and order. What's your view on, because there's a huge discussion about whether important people who have been charged in a court, should they be considered for public officers? And if you read newspaper, there's all kind of... Now, basically, I would say, I'll summarize the media for you. I think the consensus was that Anwar Ibrahim has no choice but to bring Zahid in, okay? But what's your view on innocent until proven guilty? I mean, from the perspective of a law student, and also personally, what do you think? Is this realistic, or is this... do you agree or disagree with that?
I think I do agree with like the principle of like innocent until proven guilty, because like we can't just like say anything negative about something, right? And I believe like the time will tell the answers, the results, whether like they are, like people's opinions are correct or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and former Prime Minister Najib, from being charged to go to prison, he kind of go through 6-7 years of process, and ultimately he exhausted all his right, and I think justice was dispensed. So I think personally, I am a very strong advocate of innocent until proven guilty. In fact, I remember I can't remember, a great law lecturer saying, it's better for 100 criminals to escape justice than one innocent to go to jail wrongly.
Yep.
So I always remember that, and I know people will be like, that's not fair, but I think it's worse if an innocent go to prison than those who... But just our view. Okay, now we want to kind of... we're coming into the final point already, and so really interesting to hear your view. But now we want to talk about post-election already. If you follow our podcast, the last 4 or 5 episodes is all about election. But now we just want to go into a more personal direction. Now, what do you feel about... I know it's early days, but no harm talking about how you feel, what you aspire to see. What do you feel about the directions of the nation now? We already say it's a Malaysia Baru, just not the ones that we anticipate. Maybe we start with you, David.
Yeah, I think personally I feel pretty positive, but at the same time cautiously optimistic.
Okay, that's the term we've been hearing a lot.
Yes. So why cautiously optimistic is because personally, the element of UMNO in the cabinet kind of a bit surprised on my end, but at the same time, I'm having confidence on the Prime Minister himself, Anwar Ibrahim, and how he's going to balance things out between the coalition. And I think and the number of MPs that are in the cabinet as well. I mean, I do have high confidence, like Rafizi himself, and I mean Tengku, yes. I mean, that's a question mark there, and because I do have like doubts in terms of how can someone who lost as an MP, as a candidate, become a cabinet.
But there's a few of them, like Saifuddin also.
Yeah, I think there's 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that I do have that kind of questions that come from time to time. How is that possible, and then that's not what people voted for. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll get that answer in the days to come. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the sentiment is good, but definitely still need to keep an eye on, I mean, let's hope that accountability, transparency and all that will be more prevalent in this round.
Yep. Yeah. So Joanne, what about you? What do you feel about the general direction? I mean, bear in mind, these are very, very early days.
I think I'm feeling positive also, but at the same time, I am quite curious, like, cause like it is a coalition government, so like there are a few parties in it, and then they have their own ideologies and they have their own opinions, and I'm just curious, like, how are they going to like work together and then come to a middle ground where they can like work as a unity government.
I think that's a great point, Joanne, because unity government, I would say, is not so common in the British Westminster system. Yes, we have a bit of that with UK, we have a bit of that in Australia, but not like this, not like so rojak. But then in other European countries, in Israel, in France, in Germany, in Italy, it's very, very common to have. I mean, sometimes you get super extreme ideology, and I guess they just have to find ways to work. And so I mean, one of the things that really people are talking about, I think yesterday or the day before, Zahid was praising DAP, right?
Yes.
And it's like, which earth are we on now? And that kind of thing. But it's interesting. I've been talking to Lyra and other people, and we sort of say, look, it's almost like Anwar Ibrahim is the right person to handle this sort of competing interests. I agree with both of you. Time will tell. But why don't we finish off with this question? What do you think about the cabinet now? Of course, all the reaction came in already. We had talked about Zahid and things like that. But just give us 1 or 2 points about what you like or what you don't like about the cabinet. They just had their first meeting today. Yeah, maybe David first.
Okay. What I like about the cabinet, definitely, I think the interesting point is having the East Malaysian MP as a deputy DPM. So I think it's something interesting and something that giving hope back to Sabah Sarawak, I believe, and causing the people of East Malaysia to really know that there is someone backing them up. There's someone there representing them. And I really hope that he really takes up that position and do his best to really speak on behalf of Sabah and Sarawak. And I think in terms of, I mean, people talk about unity government. I think Anwar, did his best in terms of trying to balance between the 3 major coalitions. So I think that's definitely salute him for that. I mean, although yes, Anwar has good relationships in the past with quite a number of them from the different parties. And yes, like what you said, I do agree that there can be some agreement. But if Anwar oversteps the boundary, I think that will definitely cause another general election again, which we don't want to see that happen. So I think on the negative side, I think, like I said, optimistically cautious. So I think if the Anwar doesn't play the game right, I think that will tilt to the other end of the scale. And but yeah, there's definitely, as a citizen, definitely hoping for the best, and definitely not hoping for another dissolving or another Sheraton kind of incident to happen.
Yeah, Joanne, what about you? Give us 1 or 2 points about what you think about the cabinet.
For me, right, I think that it is quite fair because like it is a coalition government. And I think that Anwar Ibrahim, he did balance like the numbers of MP from different parties in the cabinet. And the positive side is that I feel like there are quite a number of good MPs in the cabinet. So I think the outcome would be positive. More,
Okay.
I mean, like more towards positive
Okay.
instead of negative side. Yeah, but I mean, like personally, I'm just curious, like why would like Anwar Ibrahim can be a prime minister and at the same time a minister of finance? Like, how is that like? Is that like? I mean, like, is that possible? Is that like normal to have?
It was normal up to Najib's time. Then, of course, the last GE, I mean, just for the benefit of our audience, is that the whole campaign of Pakatan Harapan was against Najib and against the centralization of PMO. So basically, they are saying that, look, 1MDB is a result of the Prime Minister having economic MOF power also. So that was one of the pledge. And I was just talking to one friend and say, well, Anwar didn't really promise he won't be finance minister, right? Then my friend was like, oh, he did say, it's such a date. But then I say, well, that's on contingent that Pakatan win outright. Now it's a unity government. And I think Rafizi came out and said, I mean, he didn't say it like that, but he just kind of hinted and say, it's like one side wanted it, the other side wanted it, so we can know which is the one side. Barisan Nasional definitely wanted it, and they will put, Johari, for example, is considered a very qualified candidate. So they would say, yeah, we have this, or Zafru, is considered highly rated in their eyes.
Yeah.
So, but then it's like Pakatan will be like, how can we give such a strong portfolio away? I mean, the MOF is really the bloodline of the entire reform.
Yeah.
So on that hand, on that perspective, I feel like it can be answered. But of course, I agree with both of you. Time will tell, because if he gets into that kind of thing, I'm not accountable to anyone. This kind of reminds me of Mahathir in GE14. I can't remember I don't know if you recall, the first few weeks, he was like angel.
Yeah.
After GE14, he was
I
like, every time press conference, people asking, are you going to do this? He said, I need to go back and discuss with Pakatan Harapan Council. And then after 6 months, he showed his true color. So I think if Anwar is smart, he will avoid that and really play the consensus game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
time will tell.
Yes.
But I'm glad you all feel positive about that.
Yep. Definitely.
All right, so actually our time is out already, but it has been interesting to hear your perspective. And I think now one of the things we talked with Lyra previously, of course, talking about how Undi18, we really felt like it's going to have impact over many election cycle. It's not just one cycle. So we definitely want to get you both back again and just to hear your point of view, because I feel like, we say this many times already, your generation, I know, David, I know you are slightly different from the Undi18 generation,
Yeah.
but in terms of political awakening,
Yeah.
it's similar kind of timeline. And, we really hope people continue to be interested in politics, not just the 2 months campaign and then after that,
Yes.
whatever. So do keep out the word and do continue to encourage your friends, because, when people are interested in governments and interested in the right leader, and we just talk about, I know I was talking to Mat Sabu, where's the 8, this morning, he was just jokingly, because not enough 8, and Mat Sabu had to come out and say, oh, not enough money, those kind of things. So it's good. People are watching and they are hoping, not for them to fail, but to wish that they have a good accountability for the nation. All right, so Joanne Yee and David K, thank you for coming to the show, and we will see you again soon. All right, bye-bye for now.
Bye bye.